Diabetes mellitus is broadly classified into two groups. First, insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Second, non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Insulin dependent diabetes mellitus or type 1 diabetes mellitus, or less frequently known as juvenile onset diabetes mellitus. It occurs in childhood, particularly around 12 to 15 years of age. It is caused due to the total deficiency of insulin due to the beta cell destruction. Symptoms appear when 80 to 90% of the beta cells get destroyed and pancreas fail to secrete insulin. Patients of type 1 diabetes mellitus require insulin therapy. Signs and symptoms: polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, hyperglycemia, fatigue, irritability, etc. Non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus or type 2 diabetes mellitus, or less frequently known as adult onset diabetes mellitus. Most common, accounting 90 to 95% of population. Occurs in adults, usually above 35 years of age. It is less severe than type 1 diabetes mellitus. It is mainly caused due to the insulin resistance. Causative factors like genetic, environmental, lifestyle, obesity, etc. Sign and symptoms: polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, hyperglycemia, slow wound healing, and fatigue, and frequent infections. On the third slide, we can see a flow chart on how type 2 diabetes mellitus developed through a step-by-step chain of metabolic changes. Abnormal insulin sensitivity. Here the body cells respond poorly to insulin, leading to hyperinsulinemia. In this, the pancreas secretes excess amount of insulin in compensation for resistance, which results in further complications, that is central obesity or insulin syndrome resistance. This is triggered either by weight gain or physical inactivity. Over time, there is a progressive decrease in beta cells. Blood glucose level starts rising and thus causes diabetes mellitus. Long-term consequences of diabetes mellitus: brain and cognitive decline, increased risk of dementia, stroke, brain atrophy, etc. Eyes, diabetic retinopathy. In diabetic retinopathy, there is a loss of transparency of the lens. Diabetic macular edema, cataract, glaucoma, etc. Oral health: gingivitis, oral candidiasis, xerostomia, dry mouth, etc. Cardiovascular system: hypertension, diabetic cardiomyopathy, CAD, accelerated atherosclerosis, etc. Respiratory system: increased risk of respiratory infection, reduced lung function, sleep apnea, etc. Liver: non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, liver fibrosis and cirrhosis, etc. Kidneys: diabetic nephropathy. In diabetic nephropathy, kidney gets damaged and leads to renal failure, decline in glomerular filtration rate, and loss in kidney function. Nerves: neuropathy. It primarily affects and damages peripheral nervous system. Skin: acanthosis nigricans, slow wound healing, etc. Feed: diabetic food, gangrene, etc. Cancer: hepatocellular carcinoma, bladder cancer, renal cell carcinoma, etc. Arthros: hyaline atherosclerosis, diabetic ketoacidosis. Now I'd ask my next team member to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my all respective professor and the students. Today I will discuss about diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. Diagnosis of diabetes mellitus: blood glucose is normally maintained a very narrow range, 70 to 120 mg per day. According to adenosine deaminase and World Health Organization diagnosis criteria for diabetes include the following: a fasting blood glucose level 126 mg per dl and a random plasma glucose level 200 mg per dl. A 2-hour plasma glucose 200 mg per dl during an oral glucose tolerance test with a loading dose of 75 gram. A glycated hemoglobin level 6.5%. Next slide I discuss classification of type 2 diabetes. Genetic defects in genetic defects of beta cell function. MODY. Maturity onset diabetes of the young. Maternally inherited diabetes of the deepness. Defects in pro-insulin conversion. Genetic defects in insulin action. Type A insulin resistance and lipoatrophic diabetes. Exocrine pancreatic defects. Chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, and the pancreatic cancer and the hemochromatosis. And the endocrinopathies, acromegaly, Cushing syndrome, hyperthyroidism, pheocytochroma. Infection, cytomegalosis and the cytomegalosis Coxsackie B virus, congenital rubella. Drugs used for the diabetes 2 mellitus, glucocorticoids, thyroid hormone, interferon alpha, protease inhibitors, thiazoids, beta adrenergic agonist, nicotinic acid, and the pheotonin and the vapor. Genetic syndrome associated with the diabetes, Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, and the Prader-Willi syndrome. Gestational diabetes mellitus. Gestational diabetes mellitus occurs when the one pregnancy woman decrease the deficiency of the insulin due to the high blood glucose level. Insulin. Action of the insulin. The overall effects of insulin are to dispose meal-derived glucose, amino acid, fatty acid, and favor storage of fuel. It is a major anabolic hormone, promotes synthesis of glycogen, lipids, and the protein. Insulin facilitates glucose transport across cell membrane, inhibits gluconeogenesis, inhibits lipolysis in adipose tissue, and favors triglyceride synthesis. Structure of insulin composed of the two chains of one A chain and the B chain, linked by the disulfide bond. A chain contain 21 amino acid and the B chain contain 30 amino acid. Synthesized at the pre-pro-insulin, then the pro-insulin, then the insulin. This called the active form of insulin. Plus C-peptide usually used clinically to access endogenous insulin production. Insulin secretion. Insulin is secreted by the beta cells of the islet of Langerhans of the pancreas, stimulated by high blood glucose, inhibited by low blood glucose, somatostatin, and the sympathetic stimulation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joyita Vakchi, and I'll be proceeding with the next slides. We should first manage the glycemic control by taking adequate diets and all. Second, we should also treat the associated symptoms like dyslipidemia, hypertension, obesity, and also screen for managing other complications like retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy, etc. Lifestyle modifications for diabetes mellitus. Lifestyle management of diabetes mellitus refers to adoption of healthy habits so that we could reduce the blood sugar levels, we should prevent complications and improve overall lifestyles. For first, we have dietary modifications, which is very important for every patient with diabetes mellitus. We should also check up on physical activity because most of the diabetes mellitus, mainly type 2 diabetes mellitus, comes from sedentary lifestyle. Second of all, we should also keep weight management as a very good important step because weight management also directly targets with the obesity part. Stress management, as nowadays mainly diabetes mellitus comes from stress and all, so we should also keep the stress management. Adequate sleep should be checked up on. Monitoring and tracking of blood glucose levels and other things like RFT, lipid profiles, etc. We should also avoid harmful habits like smoking, alcoholisms. Medications for diabetes mellitus mainly include insulin therapy and oral anti-diabetic drugs. So insulin therapy mainly reduces the blood glucose levels and brings it to the normal level. It also helps in other complications due to hyperglycemia. It also helps in preventing complications like diabetic ketoacidosis. Various forms of insulin formulation drugs are Lispro, Deglutec, NPH, etc. Oral anti-diabetic, on the other hand, is very useful in lowering blood sugar levels. And one plus point of oral anti-diabetic agents are it is taken via oral route, so it is very easy for the patient's use. We have seen many of our grandparents use some of the anti-diabetic drugs like metformin, dapagliflozin, voglibose, sitagliptin, etc. Diet and exercise is very important for every diabetes mellitus patient. Diet should be like low carb, high protein, high fiber diet, and intake of sugar is to be totally restricted. Physical activity, moderate aerobic exercise, resistance training, yoga, meditation, etc. to be done to keep weight in a normal level and overall well-being. Monitoring of diabetes mellitus, glycemic control. HbA1c should be maintained below 7% and blood pressure to control hypertension. Lipid profiles should be done on a regular basis. Renal function test, as the diabetic patient is on the verge of getting nephropathies. So, and the foot care is very important because all diabetic patient goes through, the severe diabetic patients goes through diabetic foot ulcerations, and eye exam should be done as there is a high chances of retinopathy, and follow-up should be done. Every diabetic patient should have their routine consultation with their endocrinologists and comprehensive assessment for fasting blood sugar, postprandial blood sugar, HbA1c, and all other tests that can that are directly related to the complications of diabetes mellitus. And they should also review and adjust their dosage, their medications and all. Okay, thank you everyone. I will pass the mic to my next teammate.
Now we will discuss about diabetic ketoacidosis. Diabetic ketoacidosis is an acute metabolic complication of diabetes mellitus that's a consequence of absolute insulin deficiency. It's a medical emergency that complicates including hyperglycemia, hypokalemia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, cerebral edema, etc. Causes: uncontrolled diabetes mellitus, myocardial infarction. Certain drugs like SGLT2 inhibitors can cause diabetic ketoacidosis. Clinical features: dehydration, Kusuma's breathing, fruity breath, hypotension, shock and abdominal pain, and altered consciousness can be seen in diabetic ketoacidosis. In this flowchart, we can understand that in diabetic ketoacidosis, there is a hyperglycemia that will lead to glycosuria, and this will lead to loss of various electrolytes, and ultimately this leads to hypotension, shock and tachycardia. It can also lead to vomiting, acidosis, and this will ultimately result to dehydration and alternate consciousness. Management of diabetic ketoacidosis: fluid replacement with isotonic saline, insulin therapy, potassium replacement depending on serum levels, bicarbonate in severe acidosis. Monitoring: by regular checkup of blood pH, acid-base balance, and glucose, potassium, we can monitor this sickness. Prevention: patient education and proper insulin technique to the patients, and so that they can early recognize this disease. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good presentation. It is just the beginning, and diabetes mellitus is such a disease that it affects all the organs, as you have mentioned, from starting to brain to foot. So whatever specialty you may adopt in future life, whatever specialty you may take in future life, you have to learn diabetes mellitus. And it is just the beginning. So, nothing to be worried. You proceed on. You can have diabetes mellitus in medicine, in surgery, in gynae, everywhere you can get diabetes mellitus. And so, I congratulate all of you that in the beginning you have described a lot of things about diabetes, and proceed on, and you have to learn many things about diabetes mellitus in future life. Thank you.
So far, this is the best presentation I have seen in this group. Congratulations, and all of you have prepared very well. You are very thorough with this topic, what you are about to speak.
That is for pure biochemistry. What is the mechanism? What are the causes of hyperglycemia in diabetes mellitus? Hyperglycemia is the main feature of diabetes mellitus. Now, biochemically, how can you explain?
Good afternoon to our respected professors and fellow bachelors. Today our topic is post-transcriptional modification. I am Monisha Mondol. In transcription, RNA is product and it's called transcripts. It undergoes several alterations. Transcriptional Eukaryotic mRNA undergoes extensive post-transcriptional changes and modification. It occurs to nucleus and cytoplasm. It occurs to all eukaryotic mRNA and other RNAs. The methods are 5' capping, 3' poly A tailing, splicing and removal of introns, and methylation, and lastly RNA editing.
The newly synthesized RNA, also known as the primary transcript or the heteronuclear RNA, undergoes a post-transcriptional modification known as 5' capping, in which a guanosine group is added to the 5' end of the RNA with the help of an enzyme called as guanylyl transferase, and this occurs in the nucleus. Guanosine is composed of guanine and a ribose sugar. After this, the 7th nitrogen undergoes methylation with the help of an enzyme methyl transferase, and the methyl donor is S-adenosyl methionine, and this process occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell. This as a whole is known as 7-methylguanosine, which is also known as the cap. The functions of 5' capping are: it stabilizes the mRNA and it also protects 5' to 3' exonuclease activity, and it also helps in the initiation of translation. Thank you.
3' poly-A-tailing. At the end of 3' mRNA, AAUGA20 plus nitrogen base sequence cut by endonucleases, and the addition of 42
mRNA to the central dogma. The central dogma involves the conversion to mRNA to protein. For example, in the liver, the ApoB gene gets transcribed to ApoB mRNA, which gets translated completely to ApoB protein. But in the intestine, the ApoB gene gets transcribed to ApoB mRNA, where cytidine is converted to ammonia and uracil in the presence of cytidine deamylase. Thus, CAA gets converted to UAA, which is a stop codon. Thus, translation occurs up to 48% to ApoB protein.
Importance. Post-transcriptional modification ensure accurate gene expression and allow the gene regulation at RNA level and involve in disease when defective. Clinical significance. In some cases, beta thalassemia occur due to the incorrect splicing of beta globin mRNA. Defective splicing lead to the SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus. SLE patient often produce autoantibodies against the spliceosomal protein. RNA editing abnormalities can lead to the neurological disease and cancer. Now the summary. Post-transcriptional modification crucial for proper gene expression. DNA transcription to hnRNA. Then this hnRNA undergo post-transcriptional modification. In capping, 7-methyl-guanosine triphosphate is added to the 5'N. In tailing, adenylate residues 200 to 300 nucleotide are added to the 3'N. In splicing, intons are removed and extons are joined. Then the RNA editing. And finally, mature mRNA is ready for translation. Thank you.
What about rRNA post-transcription modification? What about tRNA post-transcription modification?
What are the modifications of the tRNA?
Okay, you have missed it, but can you tell?
All the sorts of RNAs are modified. Not only the mRNA. There are also other two types of RNA other than mRNA. One is the rRNA, other one is the tRNA. May I ask, what is the modification of the tRNA?
Anyone?
May I ask, what are the modifications of tRNA after its synthesis?
পারবে? ঠিক আছে। এসো।
আমি বলে দিচ্ছি, modifications of the tRNA. You know the structure of the tRNA? Is a cloverleaf appearance.
Inverted L.
And there are some modified bases. যেমন T. T is not present usually in RNA, but in tRNA there is T. How T arises? It is the methyl state of the uracil, which is normally present. Psi means pseudo-uridine. It is coming from uridine. Uridine is a nucleoside or nucleotide. Uridine is a nucleoside. And pseudo-uridine is the isomer of the uridine. Differences in bond. So, addition of the CCA in tRNA in the 3' terminal. These are all modifications of the tRNA. Similarly, modifications occurs also in the ribosomal RNA. There are many subdivisions of the ribosomal RNA. So all things you have to mention in post-transcriptional modification.
Can you enumerate the different RNAs, ribosomal RNAs? What are the different ribosomal RNAs?
Ribosomal RNA.
আচ্ছা,
Prokaryotic and eukaryotic.
Ribosomal RNA.
they have some names. 5S, 5.8S, 26S, 28S, correct? So, actually, the next question should be, like, whatever you said, all modifications regarding eukaryotic RNA. Is there any prokaryotic RNA which undergo post-transcriptional modification? Answer is ribosomal RNA. Prokaryotic ribosomal RNA undergo post-transcriptional modification because it is not directly associated with the translation process, and it is derived from a common ancestor which produces rRNA as well as tRNA. Understood?
Only the eukaryotic mRNA undergo transcriptional modification. But prokaryotic rRNA, prokaryotic tRNA also gets modified. Remember, whatever you have described is the modifications of mRNA or a primary transcript or hnRNA. These are modified in eukaryotes, but not in prokaryotes. Not in prokaryotes. Prokaryotic modification occurs in rRNA and tRNA. All sorts of rRNA, tRNA, whatever may be the either prokaryotic or eukaryotic gets modified. But only eukaryotic mRNA gets modified.
Next group,